Hey, how's it going? Checking in for today, and I've been reflecting a little bit on yesterday's keynote session. And as always, I kind of look at the things that I thought I did well, the things that I didn't do so well, and the things that kind of the lessons I've learned. And certainly, one of the things that I felt I did well was to get the energy right from the start. And actually, I was playing around with a few different things, and I have done for the last few talks I've given actually with sort of getting myself into the right zone and the right place, so I can bring the best energy without it being over the top and too dramatic. And there was a few things that I did with that. So that was a good sort of kind of observation of the session. But the other thing was in the session that followed me, I think I might have mentioned it was James Cracknell. He was talking after me in a very, very different style of presenting to mine. Very kind of static in terms of where he was on the stage, but just most amazing stories. And his stories and who he is and what he's accomplished really sort of carried him big time through it, and was a very engaging presentation. Probably about an hour long actually. But one of the things he said, actually it was in part of the Q&A, was somebody had asked him the question of what which athlete has inspired him the most, whether it's somebody he's worked with or competed against. And the answer he gave was Steve Redgrave. And the reason why he said it was Steve was because Steve had this tendency to completely ignore any positive praise anybody gave him after a race. It was down to Steve to decide whether or not he had actually given it his very best, whether or not he had performed in a way that he was happy with, and he was very self-analytical about it. And the reason why that resonated with me was because that's really where I see myself in that respect. I think with speaking, people, especially at an event like that, people will generally say, "Well done, that was great." And although that does feel really good, it doesn't really give you anything to learn from. So that's the process I have for self-evaluation and analysing a presentation afterwards, for me, is really important. And actually it goes in line with one of the things that I was talking about in the presentation yesterday, which was self-honesty, which is about looking at kind of cutting through the superficial story, the easy, in the context of the speech yesterday, it was all about the superficial story for why I failed to complete the Frog Grand Round last year. I said it was the weather. But actually with the self-honesty button applied, there were many things that I could have done and would have improved my chances even if it wouldn't have changed the outcome. So the same thing is true of speech analysis, and actually just being really honest with myself and taking the ego out and saying, well, it's not being critical, it's not being judgmental, and it's that compassionate honesty. So that honesty without compassion is cruelty, and that's the same thing for self-honesty as well. You need to be judgment-free with it and just look at it and think, well, what did I do well? What didn't I do so well? What would I have done differently or better if I were to have another chance at that? And actually some things I just didn't know how they were going to land, and there was only one way to find out, and that was to try them. It didn't really disrupt things that didn't land as I had hoped or thought they would. It didn't really disrupt it. But then things came to me as I was speaking. They came to me on the fly, and I delivered them, and they did work. So there were things that I did that I hadn't planned, and things that I planned and didn't work. So sort of it all came out in the wash, and on balance I was pleased with it. But there are some specific things, specific lessons that I feel like I've learned, or I'm in the process of learning as I continue to take the presentation apart, that I'll be able to use going forward as well. One of the big ones actually is the use of the stage. See, I'm not entirely convinced that I used the stage as effectively as I could have done. And I did have a thought today to ask my friend Jerry Duffy what his thoughts would be on if that was the stage that he was presenting on, how he would have approached it, and see how that matches up with the way I try to approach it, and what I think actually happened, because I felt like I was moving around a bit too much, and it could have been a little bit too frenetic with my movements at times, even though I was trying to sort of split the room into thirds. and spend time speaking to each of those thirds of the room, making eye contact, and the front, the middle, and the back, then move to the middle of the stage, front, middle, back, move to the right hand side of the stage, front, middle, back. And so I was kind of doing that, consciously trying to do it. But I was aware at times that I was moving around a little bit too quickly and delivering lines on the move, and that's not always the best way to present. So anyway, a few things have come out just from my general musings today, my thoughts and my kind of analysis process. I've not really been thinking too much about it. It's just been there in the back of my mind. A couple of things have popped up. As I said, on balance, I'm pleased with the way it went yesterday, but I'm always eager to learn from the experience as well. And someone telling you, yeah, that was a great job, well done. As I said, albeit it's a nice thing to have someone say, but it's not the way you learn. Anyway, there's my check-in for the day. I will be back again as always tomorrow. Make sure you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and check back again for tomorrow's daily update. Bye for now.